All right, fans, here we go. Our opening attraction features super lightweights in the ring. We're scheduled 10 rounds of boxing. Introducing to you first on my right, fighting out of the red corner, wearing pink trucks with black trim, hailing from and representing his home of Brooklyn, New York. He weighed in at 141 1/4 pounds. His record 21 wins, 2 losses, with 7 wins coming by way of knockout. Please welcome the battle-ready contender, introducing Zachary Ochoa. And his opponent across the ring on my left, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing dark purple trunks with white trim, hailing from La Quinta, California. He weighed in at 142 1/2 pounds. He is undefeated in his campaign in the ring with a record of 24 wins, no losses, 22 big wins coming by way of knockout. Ranked the IBF number 9 contender, here is the talented young star of boxing, the hard-hitting and undefeated Brandun Lee. Once again, a referee in charge. Now to give instructions, Mark Calloway.
I want you to listen to me very carefully. Make sure that you keep the punches up. Listen to my commands at all times. If I say stop, these tools stop working. Touch gloves now. Let's go to work.
Brandun Lee and Zachary Ochoa. Okay. Brandun Lee, 24-0, 22 knockouts, 15 straight wins by knockout or stoppage. Zachary Ochoa's been a pro for over 10 years. We are underway. Lee 22, Zachary Ochoa 29. Immediately, Lee connecting with that left hook that got through the right cheek of Ochoa.
One thing I love about Brandun Lee is his demeanor so calm. You wouldn't know he has all this hype behind him if you just have a conversation with him. He's very simplistic. Him and his father come from humble beginnings, and they just kind of, you wouldn't know he's a killer. And
no.
He carries himself in a very calm, very really nice demeanor, and that's one thing I really appreciate about a kid like Brandun Lee.
I'm sure this has been a nickname for several prize fighters over the years, but I look at Brandun Lee and he reminds me of the silent assassin because he is very, as you pointed out, Miguel, very stoic, a humble kid, but when he has you hurt in that ring, it is curtains.
And that's one thing that Ochoa is going to be tested on. How can his chin hold up to the best shot of Brandun Lee? No one, 22 fighters have tasted defeat via knockout from Brandun Lee out of his 24 victories. It is not an easy task for the man standing across from Lee.
Well, especially now with 140 pretty much being wide open with the possibility of Josh Taylor and the right hands coming for Brandun Lee. With the prospect of Josh Taylor moving up likely to 147, that would theoretically open up several world titles or 4 world titles to be campaigned for. And Brandun Lee wants to put himself right in the mix.
And he very well could put himself in the mix at the end of this year. I know it's been a quick rise for Brandun Lee, but he just gets better and better with every fight. His competition's getting stiffer and stiffer, and yet he's still walking through them. He did that in his last fight, and now he's looking to do that against a very tough Zachary Ochoa.
Under a minute to go here in our opening stanza, the first of 6 fights coming your way. Wherever you are around the globe, it is great to be here at AT&T Stadium, this palace, home of the NFL's Dallas Cowboys. Errol Spence in our main event, a lifelong Cowboys fan. Just the first fighter to main event here 3 times. Nice left hook there by Brandun Lee. Ochoa with the nice right hand, backing up Brandun Lee.
That's one thing we really haven't seen through Brandun Lee's career. His chin really hasn't been tested because he's been so good and has demolished his opponents very quickly. Can Ochoa test that chin?
Final moments of the first round. Round 1 draws to a close.
like this. So keep on throwing the jab. Throwing the jab. Exactly. And get that one. Okay, good.
Everything all right out there? Everything all right? Right.
Round number 2, this one is scheduled for 10. And so far, I would have to say that Zachary Ochoa didn't put himself in harm's way whatsoever. And, you know, it made Brandun Lee work. I would say that Brandun Lee had the edge, Miguel, but what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a first round that you certainly can probably edge towards Lee, but if you're Ochoa, you're okay with that. You just want to get your feet wet. You want to get some timing down. But my concern is if you're Ochoa, you don't want to just be complacent and comfortable with just trying to make it the distance. If you're looking to be a true upset victory over Brandun Lee, you're going to have to take some risk. You're going to have to put your chin in that aspect.
Yes, absolutely. And just to give you an idea of the numbers, round 1, jabs landed thrown. Lee was 5 of 23, and Ochoa was just 1 of 20. So you would have to say that in boxing terms, that was the feeling out process.
Absolutely. But like I said, Ochoa's going to have to take some risk. He's going to have to put his chin in the lion's den of Brandun Lee. And that's what it's going to take to come out victorious. And you also want to put that pressure and make Brandun Lee also think about opportunities that you're going to have as well.
There's a right hand there by Brandun Lee, goes upstairs and right to the body of Ochoa, who has been a pro for over 10 years. Brandun Lee, just 22 years of age, trained under the guidance of his father, Bobby Lee.
And Ochoa being from the East Coast, as we all know, Ray, those East Coast fighters, they're not typically content with lying down for their opponents. They're willing to go out on their shield and give it everything they got. So I would assume Ochoa would have that same mentality. As you said, trained by Stephen Breadman Edwards, his fighters don't lie down. So I would expect the same with Ochoa.
And I would expect that in between rounds, knowing Edwards, as long as we have, I would guess that he would probably tell Ochoa that he needs to pick up the pace. I get the first few rounds, you figure out your opponent, but then in the third round, you got to pick it up. And Lee is doing exactly that as we are in the midst of the final minute of this second round.
One thing about Lee, if you want to nitpick at some of his weaknesses, he will get wild at times. He will throw those looping shots and leave himself open to be countered. That should be opportunities for Ochoa. Right there, he squeezed in a stiff jab through the defense because Lee had such a wide base and a wide stance.
He has that peekaboo style almost where he kind of puts his hands by his side and then he throws a right hand from an awkward angle that's from far distance. But it opens up himself up to be countered by someone who's throwing short, sharp shots, as you pointed out, like Ochoa. But Ochoa's going to have to, pull the trigger in many aspects.
That was a good jab by Lee as he was able to dart in. He's very quick, has good instincts. And that's what makes him so difficult to fight against.
On to the third.
Watch out, have one.
So you can come in. You didn't have to tell him anything shout. So as soon as you touch him, he shows up.
Yeah, but you're not doing enough jabs. Okay, you keep on touching it, maybe spraying with the left hand. You got me? Huh? I told you, what are you going to do now? Exactly.
So you want more better than him.
I'm just saying.
I don't care if you lose the first couple rounds. Stop going to the corner and stop going to the hook. You hear me? You hear me? Start throwing the jab to the body. Start feinting them downstairs to the body. Start landing straight shots to the body. You hear me? Everything's okay.
Coming up on the third round, this one is scheduled for 10. Total power punches landed thrown through 2. Lee 16 of 45 for a 35% connect percentage. Ochoa a bit more accurate, but he landed less, 10 of 22 for a 45% connect percentage.
One thing about Lee that I really like, and it's very difficult for young fighters to maintain, is he's not going to rush the knockout. As much as he loves it, he is going to take his time. It took him until the 7th round against Heraldez in his last bout in December to come out with that victory, but he was patient in that fight, and that was another aspect to his game that he was able to add, and patience is so key for a young fighter.
Yeah, as you pointed out, you don't want to rush things, and he's calculated because what he does, it serves a purpose. And he's starting to walk down Zachary Ochoa, just hit him with a nice left hook.
Yeah, it seems like Lee is starting to get more comfortable and find out the timing of Ochoa. And you're starting to see him cut off the ring more. And if you're Ochoa, that can be dangerous for yourself. And he's going to have to bring an adjustment and give Lee something else to think about like he just did there. You need to stay busy consistently against Lee.
Well, you also can't allow Brandun Lee to cut off the ring, which is exactly what Lee has been doing. If you notice, Lee is starting to cut off the ring and plot forward and not give Zachary Ochoa much real estate to work with inside that ring.
There you see Ochoa getting on the bike right now, trying to readjust and recenter himself. He does not want to get caught up against the ropes against a guy like Brandun Lee. That's where he is at his best.
That move that he just did to tie up Brandun Lee, that shows me, at least from my vantage point, that he is a bit frustrated because he was like, you know what, let me just tie this guy up and let me reset and regroup, almost like a brief timeout to be able to gather yourself again. Not that he was hurt. Under a minute to go here in the third.
Still, so far Lee has not landed a clean shot. He's been the busier fighter, more aggressive, but Ochoa has done a nice job at deflecting a lot of shots. Hasn't suffered too much damage whatsoever. But again, Lee just needs that one little opening.
Lee is starting to throw with, as we classify as, machine gun-like burst. He's starting to get into that mix with the combinations. We're starting to see him be a little bit more crafty with the uppercuts. We haven't seen an uppercut all fight long up until this point here in the last minute of the third.
Watch that elbow, Brandon.
He was able to use that left hook to set up the uppercut right there. And Ochoa, I'd like to see him continue to stay busy with the jab. He's not throwing it as nearly at a higher rate that he should to keep Lee off of him.
Final moments of the third.
Time.
All right? I'm through. All right? Everything's okay. Stay patient. Stay patient with your attack. If you hear 10 seconds left in the round, though, don't let yourself get trapped in the corner right here so he can steal the round from you. You gotta have a high out boxing IQ, right? Yeah. Don't, if you hear the 10-second bell, don't get trapped in the corner because the judges scored the last thing you see, right? All right.
I know. I see it coming. And so make it faster pace. But I need that double jab, man. Double jab. And then when you go, you used to be right there. You used to run with him. Remember? Huh?
Total body shots landed thrown through 3, or that have connected. Lee with 8, Ochoa with 9. So both men focusing in on the body as a point of emphasis, at least through the first 3 rounds.
And you heard Brandun Lee's father. He wants the jab to be more active, wants the double jab, because that is going to set up so many more power shots for Lee.
You see that Lee's 3 out of 150, Ochoa 22 of 99. Lee the busier of the two. And Stephen Breadman Edwards telling Zachary Ochoa, I do not want your back to touch the ropes. Mark Kaloy, I believe there was a bit of clash of heads there, but thankfully no blood, and we are back underway with action. Double jab there by Ochoa. There's a nice right hand there by Ochoa.
You're starting to see Ochoa's confidence grow with each round. And if you're Lee, you need to give Ochoa something to think about now and you don't want him to think he can come out victorious. Certainly he's been the more aggressive fighter, but again, like I said, he really hasn't landed a flush shot yet on Ochoa.
I think the key is for both men, for Brandun Lee, is that he's got to create doubt in the mind of Zachary Ochoa. Ochoa, 29 years of age, he knows that in theory this might be one of his final big opportunities, at least at this stage, and then otherwise he'd be relegated to an opponent with 3 losses over the course. That was a nice combination by Ochoa. And Ochoa's fighting with more urgency.
And I believe that tagged Brandun Lee right there. That kind of surprised him with that left hook. This has been the best round so far for Ochoa.
And Stephen Edwards, we are near his corner. He goes, he's getting frustrated. A lot of looping shots, and now we'll see if Lee can connect. This is the best round for Ochoa.
Absolutely. He looks tremendous. He landed a couple of really nice combinations on Lee, stunned him a bit. And now Lee is trying to come up with an answer. And this is what I talked about before the fight. You need to create a little bit of doubt and zap some of that confidence that Brandun Lee has always fought with. And there's another right hand from Ochoa again.
They are bombing away at each other in that sequence. What a nice little toe-to-toe flurry. Under 30 seconds left here in the 4th. Good right hand to the body by Lee.
And this is the risk I talked about with Ochoa. You're going to have to put yourself in the lion's den. You're going to have to be there. And there's a beautiful uppercut from Lee.
Now Ochoa is getting battered. Compliments of Brandun Lee, the heavy-handed slugger. Just 22 years of age. That'll conclude the 4th.
Conditions for this one. He's trained for this one. Okay? So look at do this one. Don't use that much energy. You know what I mean? We play the game. He's playing.
Who's winning that round?
How you doing, Zach?
It's good. Everything's good.
Your head, okay?
Taking a look at some of this action, Miguel, what you see?
There is that left hook followed by the right hook. That was a great combination. That was a shot that kind of surprised Brandun Lee. And then there was another right hand that surprised Lee again. One thing about Lee, though, he took it and kept coming forward. And that's one of the things that we have yet to see from Brandun Lee is how is the chin. And so far, it is held up in that exchange in round 4.
On to the 5th round. Zachary Ochoa, a little bit reddened outside of his right eye. Compliments of the handiwork of Brandun Lee.
One of the things I did not like about Ochoa in that round, which was a very good round for him in round 4, is towards the end of the 4th round, he got along the ropes, his back touched, and that's when Lee was able to tee off on him. And that is what his trainer, Stephen Breadman Edwards, does not want him to be at.
Round 4 power punches landed thrown. Lee was 12 of 40 for a 30% connect percentage. Ochoa 7 of 17, a 41% connect percentage. Ochoa has been more selective. It is Lee who is being the busier of the two. We are now on to the 5th.
And again, Lee's power continues to carry throughout a fight.
What I like about Brandun Lee is that he's so economical. He doesn't waste much motion. He moves in a calculated, calm way that he doesn't expend unnecessary energy.
And then every time he explodes, he's looking to knock your head off. I mean, he really has vicious intentions with every punch that he does throw when he decides to unload.
There's no such thing as pity-pat punches with this young man, 22 years of age, with a 22 knockouts to his 24 victories.
And right there, Ochoa saw he was caught in the corner and was able to spin out of it.
Good left hook there by Brandun Lee. Just over the midway point of this, our 5th round. The first of 6 tonight here in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium.
There's some blood coming from the nose of Ochoa. And then we see a little bit of frustration by Lee. He was trying to corner Ochoa again, but Ochoa was able to maneuver out of it.
I think Ochoa doesn't like the fact that now he's tasting his own blood, and he got a little bit upset. Now I think he wants to make it a little bit more rough and physical as he charged to the center of the ring. Once it became apparent to him that blood was streaming from his nose.
There you heard it. Breadman in the corner already yelling at Ochoa to get away from the corner. And right there, that's when Lee needs to explode. There's an uppercut that he just missed on Ochoa.
Ochoa's nose and mouth bleeding a little bit from the heavy punches of Brandun Lee. Right hand down the middle there. And again, Ochoa being pressed around the perimeter of the ring as we are halfway home between Brandun Lee and Zachary Ochoa.
Time.
He's starting to walk past you, right? So when you turn out, he's walking toward you. Surprise him in the middle of his step. He's walking like y'all walking down the street. Surprise him when he's walking toward you and step in with a hard fastball. Got me? Surprise him when he's walking to you and step in with a hard fastball. What are you talking about going? What are you talking about going? Huh? You're right. Surprise him off the turn. You hear me? Surprise him off the turn. Because he's starting to think you're not going to punch off the turn.
When it comes to how the punch selection is going, Brandun Lee at 19% connect percentage, 9% have been jabs, 29% have been power punches. So it is obvious that Lee is loading up on his power punches because of the fact that, you know what, he has been successful over the course of his career, and I don't see him losing rounds so far. Again, maybe one at max.
Yeah, you could make an argument for that round 4, which was Ochoa's best round, where he kind of surprised Brandun Lee. That would be the round that you would give to Ochoa, but Lee certainly has been the more aggressive fighter. He has cut the corner off, cut the ring off against Ochoa, and yet he hasn't really dominated this fight. I think Ochoa is still very much in this fight, and you heard his trainer, Stephen Edwards, wants him to surprise Brandun Lee. He feels like he's just not throwing enough. He's doing well, hasn't been stunned or hurt yet throughout this fight, but he's still not doing enough to win this fight.
And I think that it is Brandun Lee who's starting to cut off the ring and really make Ochoa uncomfortable. I'm not saying he's got him in a precarious position, but it's those little mental battles that you experience inside that ring.
And so far, Brandun Lee has not shown too much frustration. I know as a younger fighter, it can get frustrating when you're on a knockout win streak, disposed of opponents, 15 straight with TKO or KO victories, and when it's just not happening, it can get to a fighter's head. But so far, Brandun Lee seems to be taking what Ochoa is giving him and not forcing the knockout.
We have 75 seconds left here in the 6th. Brandun Lee in control against Zachary Ochoa here in Arlington, Texas. Ray Flores, Miguel Flores here for this 6-fight card. A loaded night of boxing. Under a minute left here in the 6th. Ochoa moving around the ring. He's starting to get his face battered a little bit. You see some cuts and some reddening, or some redness above his left eyebrow.
Yeah, Brandun Lee is, you know, as much as he wants the knockout, I'm sure he's sort of just taking what Ochoa is giving him. He's not leaving himself open. He's covering himself up when Lee decides to explode. So Lee, you know, in his mind, okay, you're going to give me these rounds, I'll take them.
They don't force the issue, don't force the knockout. But at the same time, what impresses me about Brandun Lee is that he's winning the rounds because he's fighting someone who is the stereotypical better boxer you would think. And it is Lee who's outboxing the boxer.
10 seconds, athletes.
And this is another good aspect that we're seeing from Brandun Lee's game, because that is a question people that have had on Brandun Lee's rise is, yes, he's been knocking out all these guys, but can he box if he's not able to score the knockout? And
Hey, what round is coming up on 7?
Wrong.
Coming up on 7?
Undoubtedly.
7's coming up.
Thank you. Off the turn, I want you to step in and hit him with a big shot. Walking casual. You hear me? Off the turn. Every time you switch.
Okay? Because or you that pyramid. You're not hitting that pyramid. You know what I mean? You're not hitting that pyramid. Blow. Okay? Everything okay? I just pop. Don't get hit. You know, when you throw, you gotta throw at the same time.
Seconds up.
You know what I mean? A short
Let's go, seconds up.
So Zachary Ochoa fighting hard here tonight, but he's dealing with the undefeated Brandun Lee. Total punches landed, thrown through 6. Lee 57 of 301, an 18% connect percentage. Ochoa 40 of 190 for a 21% connect percentage. You see the power punches through 6. Lee 42 of 146, a 29% connect percentage. Ochoa 29 of 68. So Lee is over double the amount of power punches thrown in that department, Miguel.
Yeah, and right now I'm just looking at the body language of Ochoa and just the way he's been approaching this fight. After round 4, I thought he was going to step up the pace. He was really going to start to take more risk, and that was a round he needed for his confidence. But again, he just seems content with maneuvering around the ring, and he's not taking too many risks, and he's just not fighting a winning fight currently.
He's trying to figure out Brandun Lee, but at this particular point of the fight, you probably gave away at least 6 of the first or 5 of the first 6 rounds. At some point, you're going to have to push the pace. And he's going to look at this and say, man, I could have done so much better. And the crowd here in Texas getting a little bit restless, but it takes 2 to tango.
Absolutely. You can tell Brandun Lee wants to engage, and I know Ochoa's got a game plan coming in here, but right now I don't think he's even executing his current game plan that he came into this fight with. He hasn't taken too much punishment, which is a win, but other than that, you know, you have to be willing to stand toe-to-toe with Brandun Lee in order to come out with the upset victory. We said that before. You're going to take some risks if you want that victory, and right now he hasn't taken too many risks. Therefore, he's allowing Brandun Lee to pretty much coast throughout this entire fight.
I think when I look at how Brandun Lee is built and what his style is, I mean, I think he's an incredibly talented fighter, but I want to see him fight someone that is bigger than him physically. Someone that has pop, someone that is a specimen physically, that drops considerable weight from, like, let's say 54 to 40, because Ochoa is a small super lightweight. So I want to see him fight guys that are 5'10", 5'11", that have a very thick bone structure, to see if Brandun Lee can deal with the physicality that comes with dealing with those top tier, those monsters at 140.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the next step up for Brandun Lee after this fight against Ochoa, is to see how can you deal with when you're not the bigger fighter. Like you said, in every single fight that he has been in, he's always been the bigger fighter. He's been the more athletic fighter. He's had the quicker instincts, and he's always had the more power shots and the dangerous knockout power. What would that look like if he's up against a guy that has just as good of knockout power and is bigger?
Time.
That was
adds the
punch.
7.
That was a punch that it seemed may have surprised Ochoa and knocked him off balance. I'm not sure. He seemed a little rocky coming back to his corner.
That's what you got to do. Da-da-da. Hit it and come out and cock it. You got me? You got me? That's what you do. But faster pace. Okay, he's done. Remember, his brain is crooked now. Don't give him no rest. You done? You got some? Okay, he's done. He's crooked. He's crooked now. Well, body. I know, but he's crooked right now. Let's go.
Come on, bro, just go.
Yes, sir.
So we now endeavor into round 8. This one is scheduled for 10. And curious to see, Miguel, in terms of, we were wondering how was this fight going to play out, and so far it has been the Brandun Lee show, but, got to give credit to Zachary Ochoa for still staying in the mix.
Absolutely, and this is another step up for Brandun Lee, and now he has officially fought his longest fight. He's never gone past round 7, and now we are here in round 8, so this is another check mark off of his resume that now he has entered deeper waters.
Now we will see what Brandun Lee, how he'll be able to perform here in this 8th round. He's never been into these uncharted waters.
Right now, Ochoa still hasn't seemed to have made many adjustments. And you see kind of Lee shake his head a little bit. There's not much, like you said, this takes 2 to tango. Not really much he can do. He's taking what Ochoa is giving him. And Ochoa just seems content to be roaming around the outside and not trying to stick in one place, which is okay. But again, he's not really throwing a jab, not willing to engage. And there's Brandun Lee was able to get through the defense a bit for Ochoa.
The crowd responds favorably to the 22-year-old in Brandun Lee. And Ochoa, the left side of his face, showing some of the wear and tear from the power punches of Brandun Lee. Lee unloading. Now he's really getting after it. He's stringing together combinations.
Exactly. I was just about to say that was a beautiful combination. I really liked the change up where he went to the body and that opened up Ochoa upstairs, and then he was able to come across over the top with the right hand.
Under a minute left here in the 8th. As Brandun Lee in total control here against Zachary Ochoa. This is the longest Brandun Lee has gone over the course of his young career. Lee just sort of very economical, not rushing anything, going about his business and handling the task at hand. There's a right hand snapping back the head of Ochoa, and a little bit of a laceration outside of the left eye of Ochoa. Ochoa only has thrown 4 punches this round, 55 for Lee, so just goes to show you that Brandun Lee's firepower can make you a bit gun shy.
Both eyes are starting to get swollen a little bit for Ochoa, and that just shows you the type of damage that Brandun Lee can do. It doesn't seem like he's had a lot of moments throughout this fight where he's really connected on a lot of shots, but then you look at Ochoa's face and he's marked up all over.
He'll wear you down, no doubt about it.
Coming up on 9. You ain't come here the whole way and not go for it, all right? I want to see you go for it a little bit, all right? Yes. Stay low, all right? Hands up. He's all right. Go for it a little bit, all right? You are now, all right?
Deep breath. Round number 9. This one is scheduled for 10. Total punches landed, thrown through 8. Lee 74 of 411. That will equate to an 18% connect percentage. Ochoa, on the other hand, 41 of 208. That means 19% connect percentage, but you would have to gather that Lee has won every round with the exception of maybe one.
Absolutely. I mean, Lee's taken full control of this fight, and you heard Stephen Edwards in the corner of Ochoa saying, we didn't come all this way to just lie down and take this fight and take that loss. I want to see you risk it. I want to see you go for it here in round 9, and that was a nice short little left hook, but again, need more.
He's got to pick up the pace, does Ochoa. It's that whole mentality of go out in your shield. But look at Brandun Lee go. What impresses me about Brandun Lee is that he's never been past the 7th, but he is just as strong here in the 9th as he was in the 3rd and 4th round. And that was a question as to what his longevity could be in a prize fight. And I know that he's not fighting a guy that's making him fight in many instances, and he's able to dictate the pace. But still, I think it just goes to show the conditioning that Brandun Lee has.
Absolutely. He's always been in what appears great shape. And as you're seeing here in round 9, like you said, the power's still carrying, but Ochoa, beautiful shot over the top with the right hand, and you're starting to see him use the advice of Edwards, but again, it may be too little too late. He's really starting to go for it a little bit more. Yes, he's leaving himself open, but this is the most aggressive we've seen Ochoa probably since round 4.
Look, it's that whole adage, Miguel, and you're seeing Ochoa having some success on the inside. You said it at the top of the fight, is that you have to be able to get in the lion's den with the exception of not get bit. And he's having success because it's that old adage. You have to be able to bully the bully, and Ochoa is starting to show that Lee might not be as comfortable being able to fight off his back foot.
Yeah, it's very hard. There's not many fighters that can fight off their back foot, and that's one of the things that takes learning, and Lee hasn't had to do that yet throughout this fight, but Ochoa's finally starting to press forward, and that's what's been missing throughout this fight. But then again, you know, we have 35 seconds left to round 9 of 10. There's not really much time, and it almost goes to show, it's like, where was this earlier on in the fight?
Yeah, if Ochoa had done this in 4 and 5, we could have had a vastly different fight. And I think Lee now, he's got to be able to adjust. And this is what I like about fights like this, is that it's the fight within the fight. Because now we're going to see if Brandun Lee can adjust to a guy that's trying to press him backwards.
There's a good left hook from Ochoa, connected right on the chin of Brandun Lee.
Lee took it well and he absorbed it, but I think we have a storyline heading into the 10th.
Okay. You guys I think so. He's gonna come real strong, okay? Okay. We've been chasing. Okay. So now he's gonna come and you're gonna counter and check, right? You're gonna follow him. Short cock, just like the Reno.
10 last round.
Just like the Reno.
Inside your shoulders. You understand what I'm saying? You keep your knees bent and go for it. You hear what I'm telling you? Do not back up and go to his fucking body.
When you get him backing up, load up on him.
Don't go to his body. I mean, go to his body. You hear me? Stay to his fucking body.
Stephen Edwards telling Ochoa, you gotta go for it. Go for it, go for it, go for it. I like what I heard from Stephen Edwards, and we'll see if Ochoa will do that. 10th and final round on the way.
And I think this is a fight that Ochoa's going to look back on and be a little frustrated with himself that he didn't go for it more. That 9th round was a sign, was a glimpse of if he were to have gone for it, and he had success. And there's another right hand that found the home. Again, Brandun Lee leaves himself open to be countered, and right now Ochoa in the 9th round, and right there, as we saw here early in the 10th, he was able to connect.
Now I'll say this, we are being a little bit hypercritical, but in a good way of Brandun Lee. He has won nearly every round with the exception of 1, maybe 2 at max. So this is all Brandun Lee, but it is the fight within the fight, looking at the things that Brandun Lee may have to shore up, those little nuances to get better as he moves up in competition, being a preeminent contender.
Absolutely, I mean, those are the things that we look for. There's a beautiful double jab from Brandun Lee, but in order to be an Errol Spence Jr., get to the level of your Dennis Ugas, become a Terrence Crawford or a Josh Taylor, you need to shore up those little nuances, because there's going to be guys that take advantage. And right there, Ochoa, once again, with the big right hand connected through the defense. And that's one thing Lee needs to take note of to get and ascend to that championship level.
Ochoa is fighting with more fervor, but Brandun Lee, as I mentioned, likely coasting to a decision victory. There's a right hand connecting by Ochoa. I think the key of emphasis for Ochoa is start sooner. And I thought he was going to do that, especially coming off of a loss, but that was not to be the case here in this particular fight against Brandun Lee.
It's easier said than done. You may know what you want to do as a fighter, but then it becomes a different story once you step across from your opponent. And I think that's what happened to Ochoa. But now he's gained that confidence, but it's been a little bit too late here in round 9.
Under a minute to go here in the 10th and final round. Brandun Lee in control against Zachary Ochoa. As likely he has won 8 of the first 9. I can't see more than 2 rounds going for Ochoa, but Ochoa has certainly proven to be a formidable opponent.
Absolutely. He's given Lee some things to think about, something to go back to the drawing board and work on for his next fight. And there's another big right hand again from Ochoa.
Ochoa inviting Brandun Lee in. Brandun Lee now stepping to Ochoa. Look at Lee now make that adjustment.
There's another right hand from Lee.
Fun fight to start the night here in Arlington.
Absolutely, the pace definitely picked up in the second half of the fight, but like you said, Ray, it seems like Brandun Lee should, I say that, on emphasis, get the victory. But again, nothing is ever certain when it comes to the judges.
We will find out how the judges have this one. As we look at, we'll examine the numbers of this particular fight. Zachary Ochoa, a little bit of some bruises, and Brandun Lee, not really much on his face.
One of the positives if you're Brandun Lee that you got to look at is, hey, I went the full 10 rounds, and it looked like he could have gone another few rounds after the 10. And that has to make you feel good. It's one thing to train and have great cardio and know that you're in great shape, but once you finally do it, it just adds another level of confidence to your game.
And Brandun Lee virtually unmarked. As we take a look at the numbers, Lee was 103 of 575 for a 17% connect percentage. Ochoa 70 of 328 for a 21% connect percentage. So Lee was the busier of the two. And now here is Jimmy Lennon Jr. with the decision.
Well, fans, after 10 rounds of action, we have a unanimous decision. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Chris Migliore scores the bout 98-92. Judges Joseph Mason and Tim Cheatham scores it 99-91. All three in favor of the winner, and still undefeated, Brandun Lee.
So Brandun Lee, a unanimous decision victory as he elevates his record to 25-0 with 22 knockouts, but that 15-fight knockout streak is now in the distance.
Absolutely, but I think that's one streak that Lee wasn't too concerned about. You know, as a fighter, you know you're not going to knock out everybody. Ochoa was a tough fighter, but Lee was able to take what was given to him. And this is another aspect, like we said, Ochoa presented some little nuances to Brandun Lee that he is going to have to correct as he progresses in his career if he wants to ascend to that championship level. But again, I really liked what I saw from Lee. He was smart. He didn't rush the knockout, didn't seem frustrated, and really just took what was given to him by Ochoa.